what has happened in what has been talked already, and then he will continue with that. Professor Shiv Chaturvedi, please take the podium.
I want to share the screen.
Yes, you are you want to share the screen? Yes.
That is correct.
So you can share it, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
That's
very
good.
clearly.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namo Namaha. Om Angirasaya Namo Namaha. Om Kapilaya Namo Namaha. Om Gargaya Namo Namaha. Om Dharmaya Namo Namaha. Om Vedavyasaya Namo Namaha. Om Samasthamat Shakti Sakyai Devyai Namo Namaha. Om Devakul Namo Namaha. Rishikul Namo Namaha. Santakul Namo Namaha. And I bow down to all the audience, all the listeners, with my humble pranam and my gratitude to Dr. Ravindra Kaulji, Rajiv Verma for providing us this opportunity to listen to the ancient words of our Vedic rishis under contemporary conditions and context. So that's so beautiful. And we will look back a little bit what we did last time. So this is a kind of a journey. This is a story full of mystery, wonder, and puzzlement. This is a pilgrimage towards human identity in the social domain. In a little social domain, this is the pilgrimage. And we are all going to go together. We will see peaks and valleys, mountains and rivers and trees and flowers, beauty and wonder of the human world. How we have been categorizing ourselves, treating ourselves, behaving ourselves. What should be our destinations, short-term, long-term, ultimate, how we go around. So this is what we are going to look at. Before we go forward, let us look at sing together the Shanti mantra. The beautiful mantra, very befitting mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sayaviriyam Karvavahai Tejasvanavadhitamastu Ma Vidvasavahai. Om Santi Santi Santi. This mantra is very powerful, very important for us to tune up to, listening together, singing together without any hatred or without sense of otherness or without any preconceived biases and notions and ideas. With open mind and heart, let us listen to the old voices under the new context in the new age. So with this, just a cautionary appeal, just to prepare ourselves in this journey. It is a kind of mini course providing authentic, brief overview of the ideas and doctrines directly related to the topic. This is very broad and deep. And there are two primary aspects of this lecture series. One is really theoretical, with enunciating the doctrines, ideas behind. Other aspect is what we call the applied or practical aspect, how these ideas manifest in the real living traditions. And that is the course, what we call normally people do the field work, anthropological studies. We will focus on the first part, the foundational ideas and doctrines in this series. And further on, we will be pointing out from the applied field what can be done, must be done, needs to be done. This dichotomy, theory versus practice, which currently is also talked about, has been in the human consciousness from the very ancient times. But the Vedic rishis have handled it very, very effectively and powerfully, which is a universal in applications, that these go together and they are mutually what you call the interactive. Theoretical ideas will have a manifestation in practical world, and then we take the real life experiences, go back to the theoretical ideas, and back and forth continuously working on it to provide meaningful understanding with the changing times, and which is unique in the Vedic worldview. I have not come across, though being a student of the world traditions, other traditions, Abrahamic traditions, non-Abrahamic traditions, Chinese traditions, African traditions. I am a good student on those traditions. I have not found in their worldviews the endowment of the frameworks and mechanism through which proper changes and transformations can be administered when the times change, when the society change, when the world changes. You may also notice the following. You will notice also some new insights, new articulation, new challenges, and hidden mysteries. And we will request you towards the end, after the lecture, that provide your own insight through your own questions so that we can learn together, dance together, sing together. Let us look at this aspect here. We started with the 4 Varnas in social domain, from the most wonderful, beautiful, unique Geet, Bhagavad Gita, sung by Narayana himself. Serenity, self-control, austerity, purity, forbearance, uprightness, wisdom, knowledge, dharma, shraddha. These are some of the duties of Brahman, born of his nature, swabhava. That's a very critical term, swabhava. Kshatriya Varna, heroism, vigor, steadiness, resourcefulness, not fleeing even in a battle, generosity, leadership. These are some of the duties of Kshatriya, born of his own nature, Subhava. Agriculture, all business world, all that make living earth and calm, they are primary duties of Vishya, born of his nature, Subhava. and supporting all these Varna and upholding the world, the society, through their service. The primary duty of Sudra born of his own Subhava. These are some of the important characteristics, the properties, attributes of people born in with these varnas, or can be identified loosely within these varnas. Plus, all have the following 30 qualifications for all the varnas. So you can look at here: Satyam, Daya, Tapa, Saucham, Titiksha, Samadama, Ahimsa, Brahmacharya, Tyag, Swadhyay, Arjavam, Santosam, Samadrik. All these activities, all these qualities, contemplation on yourself, Danam, Dharmam, seeing Paramatma in all, hearing, singing, remembering, rendering service, performing yagna, becoming a friend and surrender one's whole self to Paramatma. All these characteristics and qualities are also part of all the varnas and all humanities. It's very important, keep in background. But these all attributes and properties and characteristics and qualifications, then the four varnas evolved, identified. Those who, with these qualities, they perform certain defined actions. Now, let's look at, before we go on to Varna and Jati, let's look at the caste. Then this word caste derives from the Spanish and Portuguese casta, which according to Spanish dictionary of 1569 means race, lineage, tribe, or breed. When the Spanish colonized the New World, they used the word to mean a clan or lineage, which was later converted to racism or race. And primary criteria of the stratification or classification of the societies in the Western world in particular, they were based on land ownership, wealth ownership, aristocracy and political power, and race, which is skin color based identification, only skin color. Ethnicity, religions, and all such kind of categorization. Jewish, Christianity, Islamic, and others, the law of karma, rebirth, dharma, cyclic nature of time, history, world process, etc., rebirth, punarjan, all these ideas do not exist. There is only one life to live. Either you go to hell or you go to heaven. You keep that in mind. Fundamental different worldviews. Also, you would like to notice throughout the lecture series, whenever the Varna is talked about or Jati is talked about, it is really based upon primarily on the characteristics or the properties or the attributes or the qualifications which manifest at the nature in this particular birth. What is your down to earth nature, your subhava, your individual nature, and which reflects actually, as we go along, we'll see each and every one of us can figure it out. What is your embedded ground based nature that you cannot leave behind, or you will always try to achieve that. we will talk about as we go along. Despite you go through many kind of trial and tribulation and professions. The Varna, no single word in any other world languages that corresponds to Varna. This is true for almost all technical terms derived from Sanskrit language. For example, niti, dharma and niti. Even niti term, technical term, one-to-one equivalent is not found in English language, German language, French language, Latin language. None of these languages contain an equivalent term, one-to-one. So you have to be aware of, and this is one of the very, very prominent force for polluting, corrupting, and uprooting the Vedic wisdom tradition. How the Varna and Jati became the caste. And we will be talking about this in further lectures, what forces were there to make that happen. The word Varna is multidimensional, multi-layer identifier ranging from inner nature to activities to outer manifestation as visual colors. A beautiful flower, for example, if you look at the rose flower, there are 100 varieties of rose flowers, different colors. Each color is very unique, red color, yellow color, orange color, all the way to black color, white roses, black roses. And so this is the Varna of each rose. It can identify some of the guna karma, social and personal characteristics of human being. It has nothing to do with the notion of racial categories, which was introduced and practiced in the Western world since 17th, 18th century in a very dehumanizing social category. And the origin we will talk about in future lectures, what is the origin of this racial category? And just to give you a one-line answer, it has something to do with what we call the enlightenment and the modern mechanistic sciences, including the theory of evolution as conceived in 17th, 18th century. A jati is term derived from Sanskrit jat, ja, born, born into existence, indicates form of existence determined by birth. It describe any group, genus, actually, which is endogamous, kind of a generic characteristics. It becomes subsets of varnas. There are only 4 varnas in contemporary world in this age. After Mahabharata times, there were only 4 recognized. And all other jatis, all other classifications based on the traits, based on the occupation, they come within the varnas. So you have now thousands of jati, probably 3 or 4, maybe 10,000 jatis. I have not looked at yet how many jatis are there in India. Each trade, so if I am born, for example, in a Lohar family, Lohar means the Smith workers. Naturally, it is easy to identify myself. Well, I belong to the Lohar family, the Smith workers family. And I will have a tendency to continue that trade. That's how the jati started evolving and multiplied and multiplied. So you will, within this concept of varna, I can also have, as last time I talked about it, varna is everywhere, including, for example, if you ask me the question, what is the can you find a Varna of Rag Yaman? The very concept Rag has a Varna. Rag Yaman has its own Varna. Rag Asavari has own Varna. All these ragas, which of 7 notes, are constructed. This is the socialization, social construct, or I'll call audio construct. The raga. And there is no equivalent term in the Western musical tradition, equivalent of raga. It's wonderful, beautiful. We can talk about the raga for whole hours, about the Varna of raga, dharma of raga, karma of raga, nad of raga. Various kind of classifications depending upon the context. Jaati of raga, gharane of raga. So this is the musical gharane, संगीत घराना, ये ग्वालियर घराना, ये जो है दिल्ली घराना, ये लाहौर घराना. Oh my goodness. The reality of Varna and Jati is connected to reality of the Supreme Being. I'm giving you the cosmography of the Vedic world related to Varna and Jati. And these R.S. Khare has been one of the very distinguished thinker and writer on this topic. So I'm quoting some of these very distinguished writers and thinkers from the East and West. So it says the conception is cosmic rather than social or political orders that we have talked about in the first lecture. Connections produced in the sacred text, whether direct or metaphorical, offer true or externally verifiable basis between Jati member, Jati Varna, and Purusha, cosmic Purusha, Narayana, and every Varna, every human being, every entity within this cosmic Purusha, Narayana, is a divine entity. I have given the reference here too. My comment, the one cosmic Purusha himself appeared at disjointed and separated as many at the visible world levels. Emergence of social classification as Varna and Jati must be seen as the harmonious reintegration. How the one became many, then how we look in the manifold world, Ekoham Bahusyama, in manifold world, how one can see the one, the source of many. This is the most fundamental doctrine of the Vedic worldview. How we can see. And these different perspectives, endless classifications, endless categories, endless identifications must aim with this notion that we have to reintegrate to achieve that unified vision within this manifold existence. What a wonder, what a beauty. This is a very unique in the world of wisdom, my dear friends. Having briefly reviewed, this is one of the books has come recently published in 1999, very exhaustive book published by Brian Smith, Classifying the Universe. He says these theoretical entities, but then again, so too are the Jatis, and some anthropologists think that they have some kind of harder reality than the Varna. Both class and caste in India are conceptualized ways of characterizing more and less fluid social grouping. The social grouping is not rigid, it's a fluid. This Brian Smith has written a book. It's a kind of a more descriptive book. Some of the interpretations are not compatible with the original Vedic worldview, and I do not agree with them. And then Thomas Bewdley has published a paper, Social Paradigms, Synthesis of Material and Spiritual Oneness, and made very wonderful, very unique, and very powerful statement. The spiritual India's VarnaAshrama system both are natural and superior to those issuing from modern capitalist and communist system. We will talk about these systems in later lectures and how these systems created the damaging paradoxes through colonialization of the rest of the world. And let's look at I'm going to focus through illustration two Varnas, which are applicable also to other two Varnas. One is called Sudra, other one is called Brahmanas. And they have been, for last several centuries, have been by people from within India, from outside India, Western, Eastern, Northern, Southern people have talked much about these two Varnas and put them in contradictions and conflicts and all kinds of scenarios, their own theories, concoction, fabrication. There are some realities, there are some fabrications. We will see what is going on. So look at the Satpat Brahman, Maitreya Samhita, Panchvans Brahman, Taitreya Samhita, many other original granth. Sudra is given a place in the Som Yagna. यज्ञ में भी सभी वर्णों का स्थान दिया गया था. Sudra has been kings, ministers, as well as the kings themselves, and offers prayers for glory on behalf of Sudra and other Jatis. There are prayers available for all Varnas, including the Sudras and other Jatis in the scriptures. And desire to be dear to the Sudras, Atharvaved said that all must desire to be near and dear to the Sudras. Sudras can be merchants or they can exercise any trade. So there have been what you call the fluidity, motion in those times, in those days, in those scriptures written down at those times, fluidity from different Varnas. And we will look at this as we go along. Some of the, because a brief one, we do not have really one semester course, 6 months course. So keep in mind, please. I'll give you some examples, some illustrations, some typical representative ideas quoted from different authors, writers, and thinkers. Look at the Rig Veda. A Brahman apparently is quoting there, myself am a bard, my father is a physician, my mother is a stone grinder. Thus, planning in various wages, desirous of wealth, we live following others like cattle, flow soma, flow for Indra's sake. One family has all the Varnas here, Brahman, Kshatri, Vaishya, Sudra. All Varnas within this family in the Rig Veda. Where each one of us actually carry with us the traces and inner natures connected to all the Varnas. And each Varna then can become dominant at particular time in life, at particular phase, particular circumstances in life. Look at what happens in the Mahabharata Santipat, in Mahabharata times. How the Varna, look at the, all three Varnas are just as I talked earlier from the Bhagavad Gita, but look at the last Varna Sudra. He who eats everything, undertakes any profession, does not observe the rules of purification, and is not interested in the holy books or rules of life. This is the deterioration of one Varna called the Sudra during Mahabharata times. All the characteristic 30 properties and attributes and qualifications gradually got dissolved, and the people belonging, the persons and jatis belonging to the Sudra Varna started in a process of what we call the impurity. So the polluted state of Sudra Varna that may have been precursor for the Socha or purity-driven idea of untouchability. Keep in mind. Let's look at the journey of Varna-based social system from the earliest times mentioned in some of the Vedic scriptures, Vedic granthas. There was all Srimad Bhagavat and other Puranas mention some of these things. So I'm giving you this scenario which I have come across after contemplating and doing yogic sadhana and going through these scriptures, broader themes. Initially, there was only one Varna, Hans Varna. All were the divine entities, Hans Varna, all pure like Hansa. Later on, three Varnas appear, differentiation and separation. What are the primary causal forces of the time? Kal and Sat, Rajatam, Prakriti. Kal Chakra and Prakriti Chakra. Three Varnas became manifest: Brahman, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. Later times, during Mahabharata times, four Varnas appeared: Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. Further classification and separation. And these four Varnas then became further differentiated and separated. Brahmana has so many jatis. Kshatriya has so many jatis. Vaishya has so many jatis, subsets. Sudra has so many jatis. And then now, later on, after the Mahabharata Kal times, Vedic Varna system and non-Vedic encounter from within the tradition and outside of India. Lot of invasions, lot of interactions, lot of people from Greek tradition, from Mongolian tradition, from all other places started moving in. And within what arose, what we call the Buddhist tradition. We'll talk about some later lecture, how the interaction of the Brahman tradition and Buddhist tradition gave rise what we call the amalgamation and confusion and conflict within even these Varna systems. These are the historical periods approximately. I am willing to identify pre-Mahabharata period, post-Mahabharata Islamic encounter, Mughal rule, British rule after 1947. I call it a political independence, not really independence. I think if I have to use even a better term, it will be a transfer of political power from white Sahib to brown Sahib. And we will discuss these periods briefly in the future lectures. My dear friends, let's look at the typical example which is quoted all the time, which is the iconic figure in the uh, movement against Brahmins, and the iconic and founding father of the Sudra and Dalit Varna, or Dalit Jati, Sudra Jati and Dalit Jati. Many of us, a majority of us, do not look at what really Dr. Balasaheb Ambedkar has written, what he has talked about. He is one of the very brilliant, very intelligent individual in that era of 40s, pre-independence and after independence time. So let's look at what he has to say about these Varna. He summarizes his thesis on the Sudra Varna. Sudras are one of the Aryan communities of the solar race. There was a time when Aryan society recognized only 3 Varnas, as I mentioned last biograph. Sudra did not form a separate Varna, they ranked as a part of Kshatriya Varna Indo-Aryan society. There was a continuous feud between Sudra kings and Brahmins, in which Brahmins were subjected to many tyrannies and indignities. Notice please here, when this Sudra Varna people became the kings, they imposed serious kind of tyrannies, indignities on Brahmins. As a result, hatred was created for a long period of time. As a result, hatred towards Sudra generated by their tyranny and oppression, Brahmins refused to perform the Upanan of Sudras because of this tyranny and because of this indignity and oppression. Owing to the denial of Upanan, Sudras who were Kshatriyas became socially degraded and fell below the rank of Vaisyas, and thus come to form the 4th Varna. This is the Balasaheb Ambedkar. Some additional critical thoughts of Dr. Ambedkar: the origins of untouchability, several interwoven theories. The untouchables become originally broken men, people who had been isolated from the community by variety of social, economic, and political reasons, brought out by various outside invading forces. The broken men were Buddhist, and there may have been content hatred for each other. The untouchability is a two-way street. Not only do Brahmins avoid contact with the untouchables, but untouchables also avoid contact with Brahmins. Buddhists, others who kept eating beef, and others slaughtered animals. And this was against the tradition of the Brahman Varna. Keep in mind, these are the social, economic, political conditions. So many forces created a rift between Sudras and the Brahmana. Untouchability is the extreme protection against impurity. That's the basis I'm talking about. Assault, impurity infections from corpuses, excrement, body tissues, after their removal from body, hair, nails, sweat, skin, menstrual blood, other kind of blood, after birth blood, biological infection creating substance, some animals, slaughtering of animals, eating of these animals, dead animals, living in filthy spaces, aversion of being doing manual work such as washermen, leather workers, sweepers, butchers, funeral persons, and other living unclean lifestyles. That is the origin of untouchability, not the race, not the simply original pristine Sutra Varna. Then impact of Islam. The untouchable sweeper caste is an example. Most of the converted people in other Islamic or Christian traditions, they went to perform these menial jobs, and with their lifestyle, they adopted those kind of work habits. As a result, there is a creation of graded untouchability. If you, even today, if you go and talk and people listen to in the villages, do anthropological hard life, real life situations, you will find out even those Varna, Sudra Varna, they have hundreds of jatis, even they do not touch each other. They avoid touching each other from one, even they are from Sudra Varna. They do not have social relationship. They stay within their own groups. And my dear friends, just to remind you, those of us who are groping in darkness, limits of untouchability, what is the limit? COVID-19 pandemic created the limits of untouchability. We cannot even touch our kins and kids. We cannot perform the rites of the dead parents and living friends and families. Why? We have to stay away from this polluting, corrupting, and deadly pandemic, COVID-19. Now I ask the audience, this concept of Sauch and Sauch, it has a lot of meaning. Sauch is not in the physical domain, but also in the mental domains, in the bauddhic domain. हम आपके विचार इतने उल्टे हैं, हम एक दूसरे के दूर हैं. Capitalists and communists, they hate each other. They cannot touch each other. They are untouchable to each other. In every field of human experiences, you will find touchables and untouchables. If I ask the audience, my dear friends, you have in home untouchable state, untouchable spaces and touchable spaces. I don't think any sensible person can eat food sitting in the restroom. You cannot perform the actions, this aggregation in your kitchen that you do in your restroom. If you do that, then I think you can be called either the Paramahansa, or you can call the person in deep darkness. So untouchability, or the classification, or who should be near to me, who should not be near to me, all these ideas, all these through mind, buddhi, ahankar, through physical, have to be taken into account, and this is what happened in case of origin of untouchability. Outcast. There is long progressive deterioration of original Varna ashram system. These will be elucidated in the forthcoming lectures. individuals groups got rejected by their Varna system for their unacceptable ideas and misconduct. Antagonism from non-assimilated foreign groups or primitive tribes. They don't want to be part of the Varna system. Conflicts due to conversion to Buddhism and other religions in the early phases of growth. Persons, groups who conduct considered unclean, impure, polluting, who may reveal against the norms. For example, such groups were Charvaks. Still we learn Charvak philosophy. Why? There are only 4 elements. There is no Akash in their worldview. And as a result, their philosophy, they used to hate the Brahmins and Vedas and all these scriptures. Real hatred they propagated widely and boldly in those times, without even reading the Vedas, without even thinking about the Vedas, without even commenting on the Vedas. They rejected with such a harsh language. These are the filthy books of filthy Brahmins. Idiots, stupid Brahmins created these filthy books. Contains no wisdom at all. How do you treat such groups and such people? Keep in mind, while the modern world of science and technology and the philosophy looking at the Vedas for new wisdom, new understanding. In the very first lecture, I quoted one of the very distinguished quantum logician, Patrick Heelan. He says, if you believe in Alfred North Whitehead, who said the Western philosophical thinking after Plato is nothing more than a footnote to Plato. And he said, if you believe in that, then you must believe in something else, that the entire Western philosophical thoughts and ideas, including Plato, is not more than extended footnote to the Veda. Who should I believe? Who should I trust? Who has authenticity? The Charvaks or the Patrick Heelan? Or the great philosopher Antonio de Nicolas? Or many such philosophers and thought thinkers in the Western world? They are not Hindus, born and brought up Hindus, but they are within the, I call them within the Brahman Varna, creating new wisdom, new understanding, compatible harmoniously with the Vedic worldview. My dear friends, my dear listeners. So let's look at I'm just proposing one based on the well-thought process. Approximately, these are when you talk about the relative ranking, okay? If you talk about the Jnana Vijnana Dharmakshetra, creator of upholder of knowledge and wisdom, how to run the life, how to run the society, how to run the world, how to create new knowledge, then Brahman comes first, Kshatriya, and then Vaishya, and the Sudra comes last. If you are talking about the valor, sword, defense, lust, war, just wars, then Kshatriya comes, then Brahman, then Sudra comes, Vaishya comes the last. Go and look at the encounter of Islamic Mughal invaders in India. All Varnas participated to fight against, but we are not told. Sudras, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas played very, very shoulder to shoulder roles as Kshatriyas. If you're talking about the Arth Kshetra, the wealth for all Varnas, the Vaishyas become the primary. Then Sudra, then Kshatriya, Brahman becomes the last. Brahman is the poorest, Vaishya are the richest. Actually, Vaishya and Sudra, two Varnas, are the primary out of four Varnas who create new wealth. Both together. Otherwise, new wealth, new prosperity, changing times cannot be done. Kshatriyas are the protector of that wealth, protector of all the Varnas. Brahman simply provides what he called the knowledge about how to go about creating new knowledge. But they are, as far as the real contributors are in this category. Labor, services, practical support, and wealth for all Varnas, Sudras come to the top. Then Vaishya, then Kshatriya, and then Brahmins are the last. Sustaining, enriching the all society, everything. Every entity, living or non-living entity, all Varnas participate in their respective roles, in their propensities, in their own qualifications. I can design several such categories and then rank them accordingly. But this is, I give you a brief understanding. And what is done by these racist ideas, that only the first column was considered to be only category to rank them. And I tell you, they use the term, what you call the hierarchy. And I'm going to make a strong comment. Look at the Mahabharata, same Mahabharata. Lot of information, lot of ideas, and many ideas are paradoxical, contradictory. So if you are reading the Mahabharata and quoting or misquoting out of context, you are not doing the authentic job. And in the Santi Parva 188, there is no superior Varna. The universe is the work of immense being. The being created by him, they're only divided into Varna according to their aptitudes. All are divine. All have their important roles to play. Just like in today's world, there are so many departments, so many, and we will look at those as we go along. Social hierarchy. The term hierarchy of Varna Vyavastha is fundamentally wrong, because the term is one-dimensional without proper support of any meaningful criteria. When you world use the hierarchy in social domain, it's always one-dimensional. Ranking is better term than the hierarchy. Ranking with respect to this criteria. I have to say, person X is great. Person X is good. I don't know what you're talking about. Person is great at killing somebody, is good at killing somebody. I have to give a context. Our even normal language of communication is so polluted and corrupted. We do not know really how to effectively, with minimum amount of confusion and conflicting domains. Ranking must be based on plurality of value-based criteria. We must mention the criteria. In contemporary times and traditional, pure states of Varnas cannot be ascertained in general. In general, pure states of Varnas in contemporary times cannot be ascertained. It does not mean does not have. We have still pure states of Varna. You can find them, but they cannot be easily located and identified. Each person will function according to will all these varnas depending upon circumstances, times, and need. For example, most of us professionals are engaged primarily in action related to Vaishya and Sudra varna. Most of us in a professional life, we are working as Sudra varnas or Vaishya. We take those roles in our consciousness. हमारी चेतना में वो वर्ण का प्राकट्य होता है और with those varnas I am going to live my life. And actually that's why we will talk about later how the life span can be naturally looked at as the stages of life, ashram dharma, because the aging phenomena and what I have to be doing throughout this life, which is a short life, 100 years at most, what we should be doing. So most critical paradox traditionally is the birth-centered or karma-centered. And three dharma kshetra, guna dharma kshetra, karma dharma kshetra, and swabhava dharma kshetra. Preamble. I might propose there are three entwined ideas based on the field of traces or residues of past guna karma kshetra, embedded within the causal body, linga sharir from innumerable previous lives. That's the birth. That creates a what we call swabhava, manifestation of swabhava. Swabhava varna kshetra net results the broad and deep guna field in the present life, out of which some gunas will be strongly predisposed as one's own innate nature. Predisposition, potential, and aptitude is impacted by nurturing from the immediate family and social domains. Nature versus nurture. So we have actually birth guna karma centered, and karma centered. This is one of these schemes. I am presenting only for two varnas. Of the two varnas follow the same. If you are by birth from qualities are of Brahman type, then you are Brahman by birth. Gunas can be birth, Brahman. Karma can be Brahman. Then identification will be easy for Brahman. I call it Uttam Brahman. If you are born in Brahman, but Guna is Brahman, Karma is Kshatriya, then I will designate as a Kshatriya. If Guna is Brahman and Karma is Vaishya, I will designate you as a Vaishya. Vaishya. If you are Brahman, born, but Guna is Brahman, but Karma Sudra, then it be Sudra Varna. So similarly for Sudras, if you are by birth Sudra, by Guna Sudra, by Karma Sudra, identification will be Sudra, which will be Uttam Sudra. And in other, what you call Varna Sankara, it means there is no harmony between the Guna and of birth, Guna and Karma as your lifestyle, then it becomes a what you call disharmony. So if Sudra born by birth in the Sudra Varna, a person born by as a Sudra and Sudra Varna, Guna is Brahman, Karma is Brahman, then you will identify, I will identify the Brahman. Narad Muni Dasi Putra the शूद्र वर्ण का काम करते थे और वो जो है देवर्षि नारद की पदवी को ग्रहण किए। ऐसे बहुत से उदाहरण हैं। Lots of rishis were of lower varna, they became Kshatriya, Brahman, Vaishya. Sorry. So similar table can be conducted for the Kshatriya and Vaishya varna. Please note the following significant philosophical viewpoints while acknowledging dominant character of the age. आज की एज क्या है? अधर्म, अर्थ, काम, political power driven. धर्म और मोक्ष missing. So contemporary slogan is asatyamev jayate. There are buddhijeevis, there are shramjeevis, and there are brahmajeevis, those who create fake news, those who create asatyam, झूठ फैला रहे हैं, परोस रहे हैं. एक ऐसा भी वर्ण, नया वर्ण जर्नलिज्म में जो है क्रिएट हुआ है. ग्रेजुअल डिसहार्मनी, इनकंसिस्टेंसी between जन्म क्षेत्र, गुण क्षेत्र, कर्म क्षेत्र, as one can move from Satyug to Treta Yug to Dwapar Yug to Kali Yug. In this Kali Yug, Varna of a person within a social ring can be identified, although very loosely, through Karma Kshetra only. The other identification based on Janam Kshetra, Guna Kshetra may remain in the realm of personal inner nature, family-oriented discord, but in the social domain, only Karma has a better identification parameter. All Varna identification journal has mixed characteristics. No external thought is recognized to proclaim such an identification. In modern world, there's no kings, there are no Kulapati who can tell you this is your Varna. One's birth has also basis on the prarabdha. Okay, it was at the time, in different times, pre-Mahabharata times, even Mahabharata times, it was easily to identify through birth-based identification. There are exceptions to well-defined reasonable rules. There are plenty of those. Even the karma-based identification of person change over time. And it has happened actually, lots of individuals in midlife crisis take place, and they pick up different kind of karma. Professional life, they change the varna, they change the karma. All kinds of things. So modern context, actually, because of the Raj as Tamas and Sattvic mode, Prakriti Kshetra and Dharma Kshetra and Adharma Kshetra, they are all mixed together. As a result, the identification of the Varna becomes difficult formally. Let people informally follow their own Varna system. And these, we will make these comments more elaborate fashion towards the concluding remarks in the final lesson. Swabhava Kshetra is dominant in our nature, aptitude, qualities, propensities, potential that make person eligible in social ring. Value, purpose, mutative ranking is the very life and blood in the every field of contemporary world. आज के समय हर एक्टिविटी को रैंक किया जाता है. Even cars, every car has wheels and driving mechanisms and place to sit in, but still we rank them. Which car is the top model? Out of all these models, which one is the best? Everything, whether I should go to MIT or Harvard, Ivy League institution, even we do not know what they are teaching, instead of going into a third-rate college and universities. Everything is being rated. Whether you have the best food in Costco, where do I find the best apples? All ranking stores, each and everything. You look at the Google, everything we go out to purchase, even to think about, to make friendship bet, to go for taking vacations. We do the ranking all the time, my dear friends. This is the wonderful, beautiful. So without going further, karma-centered identity is the most authentic under contemporary condition, which is observable. amenable to categorization, characterization, valuation. Drawback is current formal identification is not possible. Birth center is easy for formal identification, but cannot be trusted for correctness, require input from the Karma Kshetra. Actually, there are very powerful statements in the Mahabharata Anushasana Parv and many other Purana and Smriti. A Sudra can be Brahman or vice versa, so the birth does not matter. Times have changed. My dear friends, धर्म क्षेत्र का इंटरेक्शन होता है इन दोनों के क्षेत्र के confluence of these kshetras give rise to pollution, corruption, as well as we can then think about it, repurification. And it is time for repurification, my dear friends, my dear listeners. So in the concluding section, let us recall the eternal words of the Narayan Yogeshwara Krishna. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishna Yartha Partho Dhanurdhara Tatra Sri Vijayo Bhutir Dhruvariti Matirama. Are we ready for Renaissance? Last hundreds of years, of thousands of years of slavery of all kinds have created highest degree of pollution, corruption in the social domain and the mental domain, in Buddhic domain of people of India. We have become mentally slave. We engage in karma yoga. We talk a lot. Armchair philosophy is not going to work. It is not going to work. It has not worked for several thousand years. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is about. Arjun, मैंने आपको ज्ञान दे दिया, विज्ञान दे, आपके सारी जिज्ञासाओं का उत्तर दे दिया. Do whatever you think you must do. I'm not going to impose on you. The final decision is yours. So final decision is ours. And finally, with my folded hands, I offer my obeisances. आप सबको बंदन करता हुआ, आपसे प्रार्थना करता हुआ, आप सभी मुझे ब्लेसिंग दें दक्षिणा के रूप में और हमारी गलतियों को क्षमा करें. I am asking and requesting for your forgiveness and please give me your blessing. आज हमने जो गीत गाए, फिर ये गीत गाएंगे बंजारे की तरह, पर्वत पर्वत गाता जाए बंजारा. नए गीत गाएंगे, नए स्वरों का, नए गीतों का, नए रागों का उद्भव होगा. जागो जागो भाइयों बहनों, जागो और जगाओ, जागो और जगाओ. मेरी आपसे बारंबार प्रार्थना यही है. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और I am now I'm ready now for questions and answers.
Thank you very much, Professor Chaturvedi ji. Exceedingly beautiful talk, very well explained. And so I'm sure that people will have questions. Maybe I can start with my first question, taking the privilege of liberty of being a moderator. It's a comment and question combined together. So I would like to know your reaction. Because irrespective of the fact that whether it is modern time or it is not modern time, that these gunas and this classification is needed in every society. It doesn't matter which society you have. You have professors who are thinkers, you have policy makers, you have you have army, you have workers like me, and you have the others who serve the society. So this classification is valid, irrespective of whether you identify it, you recognize it or not, but it is there, because that's how the world works. Otherwise, a society cannot work. So every society, whether it's animal society or a human society, it is there. So why would you say that in modern times this Varna system is mixed? Because it is clearly there. Everybody has a guna, and everybody is, according to his proclivity, performing something in the world. For example, I have been in the, I even though did PhD in physics, I have been working in the banking, so I'm a Shudra. That from my profession. So so why would you not?
That's a great question. In the next talk, this is what I'm going to illustrate and elucidate, that how different traditions of the world have classified in social domain their own population. The Varna system, I talked about the rigidity of Brahman, Kshatri, Vaishya, Shudra. Okay. These Varna system as, because this has evolved into caste system. So the present caste categorization is really does not relate to Varna system as it should have related actually, but no. Varna system is all four Varnas based on the propensity and potential in each of us. But now, since the times have changed, so suppose I have, I am born in a Brahman family, for example, I could have taken any profession as a karma kshetra, okay, any Kshatriya profession, other professions. So though I'm born in Kshatriya Brahman tradition, I should be focusing only on the Jnana Vedas and Brahmanas and all teachings and priestly class and all those kind of things I should be doing, but I'm doing something different. So if you identify me by birth, then I will not accept it. I will not accept it. So the traditional roles, the Brahmana, Kshatri, Vaishya, their roles were also confined to a certain categories that they were playing in actual practice. So now the Varna system, because other, you said, yeah, I said categories. That's why we cannot live without categories. Categories are everywhere in each and everything. Even you have 100 categories in apples, for example. Okay, so the term Varna is really relates to, in the original phases, it does relate to inner nature. And that inner nature is full of sattvic mode. You see, all the dharmas, 32 dharmas, every Varna should have. So they are based on the dominant sattvic mode. And sattvic and rajas combined. Okay, the tamas mode is the minimal that is observable in those kind of. Now tamas and rajas is the dominant. So the original concept is Varna, unless you define Varna with new identification parameters, new properties, new propensities. That's why I talked about that. Yes, I am working. I can be identified as in the four Varnas. What actions I'm performing, what karma yoga I'm doing. Each and every individual can be. Or look at the one example. There are millions of examples. I'm talking about innate nature. One of the, I think you might have heard of this, you have read it about it. One person living under a bridge, homeless person. Somebody passing by on the top of the bridge dropped a box full of cash, dollars, $100,000. He looked at it, he found out, he went out, oh, And he spent out on things that it did not improve his living. And he went back and he was questioned later on after a year or 2 years. Well, why you are sitting in the same, under the same bridge, under the same condition? Well, this is my nature. I love it so much here. I did not love the outside life. You see what I'm talking about? These are the traps. For example, also that's very interesting to observe here. I'm giving a longer answer to your question. So I hope you don't mind. If you look at the any of the scripture, the last name that we have, Shiv Chaturvedi, the last name never used to be mentioned in the our ancient tradition. There was the Kul Dharma. Okay, ये Yudhishthir जो है ये कुल के हैं, Kul Dharma. Kul used to be recognized as the identification para. There was no last name related to the Varnas. कि आप क्षत्रिय हैं, वैश्य हैं, शूद्र हैं, क्या है?
We still have Bhardwajas and Bhagavad.
It started later on. You see, this is what happened. So look at now the question I am asking the audience, and I'm going to answer a little bit. What was the Varna of the Karna, for example? Karna ka kaun sa Varna tha? Karna became a very much confused state of Varna, because birth was the Kshatri Varna. Upbringing was Sudra Varna. Sut was the Sudra Varna class. Sut Varna. Sudra Varna, and how do you decide? Because if I do not know, you were born, because the Kul is Sut Kul. So he was identified as the Sut Varna. Now, the problem came up. Now, there is another very twist. He did not follow as he should have followed the Karna, what he called Kshatri Dharma. He became the good friend of Duryodhan, and Duryodhan did not want to follow the Kshatri Dharma, though he was born in Kshatriya Kula. So the Karna situation became very, very ambivalent. Karna did not know. He kept lying in order to get the Astra Shastra. He kept lying. He got so many shraps and all that. So he did not follow, because even if you are born in Kshatriya Kul, if you do not follow the Kshatriya Dharma is a broad scope of dharmas. It's not one thing you just fight in the war. If you do not follow, I will not call the Karna as a Kshatriya Varna, as a Karma Yoga. That's why the Pandavas never recognized him as a Kshatriya Varna. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Jaspal Singh ji, please ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Shiv Chaturvedi ji, actually for taking out the time and enlightening all of us. So my question actually are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So my question kind of relates to, basically you presented a matrix like based on the
criteria,
birth and the guna. One would be identified as Kshatriya, or one would be identified as Brahman or Shudra.
Yeah.
Now, actually, you cited some example of that in the ancient time.
Yeah.
Is that happening? And should it happen actually in today's society?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. If you look at, for example, the tradition, the origin of the Sikh, tradition. Panch Pyara, you might have heard of Panch Pyara.
Yeah.
Panch Pyara mein Brahman, Kshatri, and Sudra was also part of the Panch Pyara, who wanted to fight to save the Hindu Dharma.
Sure.
Another very important thing that I'm going to illustrate it in the next lecture, another very important, if you have heard of Tamil Nadu, there is called the Pancham Veda, Tamil Veda. Okay. In Tamil Veda, and you know who is the principal writer of the Tamil Veda? Out of Alvars, Sant, all of 9th century, 8th century, Alvar Sant, 9 of those, I think 9 or 12. The most celebrated, even till today, the Tamil Veda is sung in the temples. And who was the prime writer? A person born in Sudravarna. Wonderful, wonderful. And you will find out, and I will make some quotations from that sources. So there are actually have been throughout the human history for last, even before Mahabharata times and after Mahabharata times, there have been people born in different varnas, but they perform their karma belong to different varnas.
Yeah. So just one thing, but actually, that like all those occurrences are like in the older times. But I think is, in my opinion, but of course, like this is a very open-ended question and very kind of broad. So I think in today's society, today as we speak, so that
I will tell you what I can say. Yes, there is a potential. There must exist. I do not personally know about them, but
sure.
you should be able to find lot of very, very large number of people born in certain varnas and then transcending those varnas and to do functions into different states of varna.
Yeah.
You should be able to find. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Yes, more please. Hello, I cannot. रविंद्र जी आप अनम्यूट करिए.
Ishita ji, please ask your question.
Hari Om.
Hari
Hari
Om.
Om.
Hari Om.
This is actually Ravi Kumar. The ID is wrong over there.
Hello.
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 I can hear you.
I can hear. I'm audible. Hari Om ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. So my question is, actually the 4 yugas, whatever it is having, everything is related to one of the varnas. If you go to Satya Yuga, there were more Sattvic people like Brahman were there. In Ramayana, when you comes, it is moreover there's there, and in Mahabharata, most of the Kshatriyas were there. In the, if you see all Kauravas, Pandavas, and the brotherhood and all, it was a moreover the fighting over dharma and adharma, Kshatriya type of characters.
That is
and
right.
Now in the Kali Yuga, we have more about everything on the karma. So what we are doing it.
Yeah.
So it is right that we can be identified only by karma in this Kali Yuga.
Yeah, this is what is a great question. I appreciate very much. Actually, if you probability of identifying a social domain only. See, I have to make sure you have there are other domains, other realms of human existence and experiences and actions. In social domain, if I want to know the varna of a person, and I do not know much about his personal identity in terms of, what kind of attitude the person has, only the kind of karma he or she is doing. That's the only indicator for me available. But if I become friend with someone, then I can know also their properties and propensities. Then I have another dimensions to look at, finding out what varna this person belongs to. So even in modern times, the person can belong to, have a very, very, very consistent, born in one varna and continue in guna and karma in the same varna. You can find a lot of people like this. But there are a lot of mix also. Now, if you look at, the Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, and Brahmana all are engaged in Veshkarma, earning money, or doing agriculture, in agriculture field. Brahman are not supposed to do the agriculture. Do you see what I'm talking about? You will find all kinds of people of Varnas, and Varnas are the bigger category based on the interior subhab. How does it manifest in different contexts? Only through looking at the real life karma. So you will be able to identify pure cases, and you can be able to type mixed cases. But formal identification, if you want to make, okay, as an individual, not as a politician, or not in the political field I'm talking about, in the social field, if you want to make some kind of identification formal, then I think without knowing the personality of the person, karmi kshetra is the only criteria available to give us a good understanding of the varna of the person.
I have some more. One last doubt I'm having is that, so in this service, whatever we are doing, if we are doing it any service, so is there any actionable points to bring it back to this Varna system from Jati or a caste system?
Oh, that's a question actually. I will throw some lights on later courses when I'm talking about how we look at under modern context, what we should do, what can be done. As far the personal relations are concerned, I would prefer if I do not have a purity of one family available to me, I will then go for the next level, karma and guna. I will have no problem in making personal family relationship with the family and person if I know their karma and guna.
Okay, ji, dhanyawad. Shubharatri.
Thank you very much. Kanchan Bhanji, please ask your question. Yeah.
Dhanyavad, Prof. Chaturvedi ji and Rabindra ji for arranging the meeting. It's fantastic. I've taken away some very helpful information, and the reference to the Shastra is particularly helpful. Please, may I ask a question regarding gender? We often struggle in the having to look through the issues of gender and feminism, etc., from a Western perspective. Fairly bogus. It doesn't quite work for our dharmic perspective and our own tradition, because our position a very different one, very elevated and very privileged. And so anything I've been taught about through Sanatana Dharma, and probably more importantly, my lived experience as a Hindu and a Hindu woman, is that there is no differentiation and no discrimination against women, and no differentiation in terms of the sexes. And in that respect, women are, there is an openness for a woman to participate in any of the varnas, and to participate in any profession, which is really a great thing in the tradition, in our Sanatana Dharma. Please, could you make a comment about your thoughts on gender in varnas?
Very interesting, very great question. And I just want to preview what I'm going to do in the next lecture. I think going to be July 10th or something like that. I'm planning to do that, where I'm going to discuss about the concept of equality. The concept of equality as it started from the French Revolution, the Western world. How it has been conceived and looked at in the America, today's America, from the Constitution point of view, from the founding fathers' point of view. How the race has been defined and categorized. How the gender is being defined and categorized. And then I'm also going to look at what is the current state of art in the field of biology. And then how the Sanatana Dharma takes care of it. And let me make one comment. Okay. If you look at the genomic makeup of the male and female, we contribute same kind of genetic information at the conception, male and female. Ardhanarisha. Okay, so this is at that level, we contribute equally. But different aspects come up when the further differentiation of the fertilized egg takes place. Different separation, different entities appear. Okay, and different attitude and instincts appear. And there is a what you call on the human level, then you have a dominant female nature, which has big stratification. And you have male nature, you have big stratification. And you have what you call combination of them. Okay, and you will find out this is a widely scattered, whether you are born in America or born in here or born in there. But then how in the social domain, how do you look at, how to treat it, how do you understand it, and how to go about it? That's a different question related to what you call the social domain. This is the fundamentals in how in the social domain it comes out to be. Personally, if you ask me, I even my own nature at this time, I'm giving you something very personal. I hope you don't mind. I have both the natures in me. I have in the cognitive field, I can go to the very depth. In the field of emotions, chama, daya, seva, I can again, that's why female characteristics that I have. I have both the characteristics. And I'm able to switch over from one to another depending upon what I'm going to, how do I'm going to act. You see? So this is, you have to keep that in mind with short note that each and every individual is endowed with the mixed fundamental makeup, a woman nari-like and nar-like nar and like nari. Proportions and manifestations are different. That makes individual as an individual, and that is the mystery. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Chaturvedi. I don't have any raised hands. There was
I have a question.
Who is the general?
This is
Lakshman Prajapati. Please ask your question. This will be the last question we will ask.
हाँ, सबसे पहले तो आप सभी को मेरा प्रणाम और राजीव जी को और आप सभी को जो ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं उनको सादर प्रणाम. 1 year ago or 2 years ago I had midlife crisis. दिमाग खराब हो गया मेरा. भक्ति भजन शुरू से करता हूँ मगर मेरे को डायरेक्शन नहीं मिली थी. तो आप लोगों के सेशन से I am attached with the 6-7 teams and we are working together. I'm so happy that you are doing that. And today we got Ashirwad from Professor Shiv Chaturvedi ji. This is amazing, wonderful. Thank you very much. And जैसा कि अभी कंचन जी ने पूछा कि हर शास्त्र में पुरुष का उल्लेख आता है.
Yeah.
Every शास्त्र हम पढ़ने जाते हैं, उपनिषद पढ़ा, गीता जी पढ़े, तो every time they mention पुरुष.
Yeah.
So अगले सेशन में please include something about comments about पुरुष क्या mention है उसका. Where is the woman? You know, like that's what.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I will do one of those sessions. You know, the other question, you know, Benji asked, you know, I will, you know, when we look at that question, I will also address that question.
And also, I selected my Varna already. I am Pustak Prachar में मेरी सेवा है. मैं cardiologist हूँ वैसे तो, but Pustak Prachar में मेरी सेवा है. So if you guys, any of you are doing some kind of dharm prachar and you want to distribute pustaks, books, and then I am willing to help in that, whatever I can.
So this seva kar that you are doing, it is this seva kar is a Sudra Varna you are doing.
Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Yeah, it's a Sudra Varna. Because you have qualities, the 30 qualities I mentioned, and you are doing this, and you are doing also the seva. Whenever anyone does the seva, it's a Sudra Varna.
जय हो, जय हो.
भगवान विष्णु सेवा में जो है करनी चाहिए स्थापित है. शूद्र भगवान विष्णु का पैरों में वास है, जहां शूद्रों का वास है.
जय हो, जय हो.
ये सेवा है. अच्छा, another thing I want to mention before everyone leaves, that also I'm later on, this is a big field. I'm not mentioned yet. Okay, there is what you call the transcending the varna. जब आप संन्यास धर्म में पहुंच जाते हैं, तब आप वर्णहीन हो जाते हैं. फिर आपका कौन सा वर्ण हो जाता है? आपका एक दिव्य वर्ण हो जाता है. तब आपका एक दिव्य वर्ण हो जाता है जब आप संन्यास धर्म में पहुंच जाए, संन्यास आश्रम में पहुंच. जब हम आश्रम की बात करेंगे तब संन्यास आश्रम लाएंगे. तहां वर्ण व्यवस्था एक्चुअली the three varna system we'll talk about. We'll talk about more about how they include each of the varna, how they include each of the human being. Dr. Cole initially asked a wonderful question, how they are each individual personality, how many ways I can identify each personality. It is mind-boggling within the Vedic traditions, which is not available in any other tradition, including modern scientific world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, I bow down to all of you. If you have any other question personal, my number is 614-284-1174. And you can also take down Dr. Ravinder call number, please. You can communicate with him if you want to really contribute to this, group. And